Hello, I'm excited to introduce four guests for this special conversation discussing the City of Arlington's rapid service that's providing autonomous vehicle rides in downtown Arlington and on the University of Texas Arlington's campus. My name is Tabitha Coulter, and I'm PAVE's Director of Operations and will be moderating this discussion today. I'm delighted to introduce our four guests to you. First, we have Ann Foss, Principal Planner at the City of Arlington. Ann, great to have you with us today.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Next, we have Dr. Sherry Kermanshashi, Associate Professor in the Department of Civil Engineering at UT Arlington. Sherry, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Our third guest is Fauna Tucker, Customer Success Manager at May Mobility. Fauna, so good to speak with you.
Thanks, same to you.
And last but definitely not least, we have Megan Grella, Associate Principal in Strategy at VIA. Thanks, Megan.
Thanks for having us.
Awesome. So these kind of conversations talking about specific projects with autonomous vehicles taking place at a community level is one of my personal favorite conversations. So I can't wait to get kind of deep into this one today. Let's start off with some broader context. So Ann, could you help us set the scene for the transportation landscape in Arlington? What the RAPID is, how does the RAPID fit into Arlington's transportation goals?
Yeah, definitely. So just a little context on Arlington to start off. We have a population of almost 400,000 people spread out over 99 square miles, and we're located right in the middle of the Dallas and Fort Worth region in north central Texas. So Arlington has a little bit of an unusual history in that we have never had traditional public transportation in Arlington. So no buses, no light rail. And about 5 years ago, our city leadership really wanted to try to think of innovative ways to address the transportation needs here in Arlington. So some of the things that we have been working on are on-demand rideshare services, which Megan will talk about more, as well as autonomous vehicles, which we're focusing on today. So with our RAPID project, RAPID stands for Rideshare Automation and Payment Integration Demonstration, which is a mouthful. So that's why we've got the good acronym. And we're using funding from the Federal Transit Administration's Integrated Mobility Innovation Competitive Grant Program to help fund this deployment. And what we're doing is we're integrating a fleet of 5 autonomous vehicles from May Mobility, that Fauna will talk about more, onto our existing VIA rideshare service. And we're operating them in just about 1 square mile in the city. And it's on and around the University of Texas at Arlington's campus and Arlington's downtown, which is really our civic and cultural core. And then UTA is also helping out with a lot of research activities, helping us really understand how this service is working and benefiting our community. And then just to briefly mention kind of broader goals, the city has been testing AVs for the past several years, and our goals have really been to test out the technology in real world environments and to help educate our citizens and visitors about AV technology, hopefully with the goal of them feeling more comfortable about the technology and more accepting of it as we move into the future. So it's been really exciting to have the opportunity to work on this rapid deployment and see the AV technologies really serving a daily transportation need in Arlington.
That's really neat. And Megan, as Ann mentioned, VIA is already providing on-demand rideshare service in the city of Arlington. How do the autonomous shuttles as part of this RAPID project add to or help supplement the service that you're already providing?
Sure. So as Ann mentioned, RAPID is part of the City of Arlington's broader approach to public transit innovation. And this started back in 2017 when the city began replacing its fixed route bus system, which had limited coverage, long wait times, with a VIA-powered on-demand microtransit service called VIA Arlington. In doing so, Arlington became the first city in the US to have microtransit as its only form of public transportation. And since then, the service has significantly grown. So today it consists of over 90 vehicles that serve the entire city of almost 400,000, with over 2,000 rides per day and 1 million rides to date. In parallel, as Ann mentioned, Arlington also started piloting autonomous vehicles, but in projects outside of or separate from this broader VIA Arlington service. But with RAPID, which launched in March 2021, it's the product of all of these autonomous pilot learnings, but scoped within the broader city's existing public transit, the Via Arlington service. So what this means from a rider perspective is that the RAPID service zone is within the broader Via Arlington service zone. And using the same Via Arlington rider app, riders are able to book rides in 2 different vehicle options, an autonomous vehicle or a regular vehicle for the same fare price. And the same technology that is routing, tracking, assigning Via Arlington's 90+ vehicles is also doing the same for RAPID's autonomous vehicles.
Gotcha. Thank you. That's super helpful. And Fauna, now thinking about the autonomous vehicles that Megan was just describing, what role does May Mobility play in this partnership under the RAPID project?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. So May Mobility is really the AV service provider, and several of May's internal stakeholder groups participate in core project partner meetings really throughout the life of the project. Using our previous AV deployment experiences, we've worked with core partners to kick off the launch process really in mid-2020. We built momentum in the later part of the year with key deliverables that allowed us to stand up the service. For Arlington, the key launch work was really AV platform development projects, securing and setting up local operations, hiring and training the local team, community engagement and delivery and testing of the vehicles. Lastly, we worked really closely with our partners at VIA on the service integration work prior to the launch. Post-launch, we support the day-to-day operations, community engagement, and reporting for the RAPID service.
Great. And then Sherry, you represent kind of this key 4th stakeholder here, which is the University of Texas at Arlington campus. So what activities have you been doing to help promote the service on campus and introduce it to the students?
Sure, awesome. So the first thing early on, what we've done is we formed a communication team, and we had a representative from each of the partners. And we developed a detailed plan on how to promote the service and make sure that everybody is aware of the service, the benefits, and how they can take a ride. And one of the activities we've done was we had organized 3 focus groups early on in the project. So we promoted the service. We also collected feedback from people, public, students, faculty, staff, and also community with disability, what they are interested to see in the service. And when we came closer to the service and deployment, we started advertising on a regular basis through the news that we had within the campus and also through the city of Arlington. So we have Shorthorn that they publishes our service and our news on a regular basis every week or every 2 weeks, depending on how closer we got to the deployment. We also have different activities at UTA and event days, and any event day that was suitable, we try to promote the service. So we had demonstrated the vehicles that we had, and we engaged students, their families, and everybody that was present in the event. We have also sent out so many emails to students to make sure that they are aware of the service and they can take a ride and provide feedback to us. So we have used multiple platforms to make sure that everybody within this area is aware of the service, and we are happy that we are serving them.
That's great. I love this emphasis on kind of collaboration and bringing different people to the table at all different parts of the process. So, Anne, why was it important to the city of Arlington to collaborate with a diverse group of stakeholders? How have you kind of helped facilitate these conversations between UTA, VIA, May Mobility to advance this project?
Yeah, definitely. And you're right. Like, these collaborative partnerships are so important. From the city's perspective, we have found that getting the experts on the team throughout the whole process is really critical to success. So obviously, we've been working with VIA since 2017 on the broader rideshare service that we have in Arlington. I think we've been talking to May Mobility for almost as long as well. And then the city partners with UTA in a wide range of different ways. But for this project specifically, we had always envisioned wanting to integrate AVs into the rideshare service. And so we've been talking about opportunities, as a group early on. And then when the FTA grant program became available, it really seemed like a great fit for what we were trying to do. And I think that's something else we've learned, because we have applied for other federal grants and they are very competitive. But I think kind of having our team and our idea in place even before the grant is announced is helpful, because you can really hit the ground running. And so all partners contributed to writing the grant application. Once we were awarded the funds, we worked really closely together for a hard year to get everything in place to stand up the deployment. And then obviously we coordinated really carefully on all of the marketing and education pieces that Sherry was just talking about. And then now that we are operational, we still are in constant contact, making sure that we're really tracking all of our performance metrics, capturing everything that we are learning along the way so that we can share those lessons learned, and using all of that information to help inform decisions about where we might go next, how we can make sure that the service is the best that it can be for our residents who are using it.
Absolutely. And I know one important piece when you're thinking about this kind of an AV deployment is the unique traffic culture and the quirks of the environment in the city. So Fauna, could you talk a little bit about some of the unique challenges that an AV might face in Arlington and how you've been tackling them?
Sure. Yes, every city does have its unique challenges. Most cities aren't typically built for AVs to operate, so we definitely have a really interesting challenge in new deployments. I definitely want to highlight May Mobility's commitment to safety. So as we talk through some of these, definitely keeping that top of mind. We leaned into our operations and engineering teams to identify areas of performance concern really early on. This was along the route and prior to launch. Initially, we noted an overgrown landscape covering a solid curb. Because of the way our technology is developed and executed, the vehicle perception of the specific area was troublesome and did result in hard stops. The May Mobility team worked together with the city to redesign a more AV-friendly landscape in that area, which is a great win for both safety and rider comfort. So again, it's a great example of how we work together with our project partners to identify a concern and move forward to further the technology. Some other issues that we tackled early on was rolling out a new platform, the Lexus Hybrid 450RX, operating in Central Texas heat with unknown impacts to technology. And really the biggest challenge for our team has been the incredibly complex on-demand service route that was built behind the scenes for the vehicles to operate on. This route network took months to build and test, and still to this day is the most complex route our engineers have built.
That's great. That's really interesting. And you mentioned too a little bit with your curb comment there, but the importance of rider experience as well for this. Sherry, I know you've been doing some work on that area. So could you help give an overview of the research you've done there and some of the ridership analysis that you've had so far? Some of the key findings there would be really great to hear.
Sure, great, thank you. So we've done several research activities prior to deployment, and we are doing right now during deployment, and we are going afterwards. So the first thing, as I mentioned, we did organize 3 focus group, and the goal was not only just to promote the service, but also we collect perspective of people, what they are expecting to see from rapid services. And after that, we did data analysis on ridership data with VIA services and Handytran, wanted to see that how the ridership data would change after we introduced Rapid. And then later on, when we had deployed the service, we had 2 surveys that we developed and distributed. One was the shorter survey that it will be sent out to any rider after they complete the ride. And then we have a long survey that we want to collect the perspectives of both users and non-users. So it's not just we are focusing on those who have taken the ride, but also if somebody has not taken the ride, what was the reason, and some other information related to that and how we can improve the service. After that, we are also conducting interviews to make sure that we are collecting all perspectives, and we have some qualitative data in addition to the survey data that we have. We also are doing monthly data analysis on number of the riderships and the events that we have and patterns, how do they change, and what we have to do in order to make sure that the service is operating on a regular basis and students or the riders are satisfied. And at the end of the service, we are doing focus groups. So we want to make sure that for the next phase, we are going to provide a strong service similar to what we are offering right now. And if there's any space or any place for improvement, we address that. So some of the things that we've noticed throughout the data analysis, we've seen that the experience is interesting. for most riders, which is very interesting and exciting to see. And they've mentioned, majority mentioned that the service is convenient, vehicle boarding is easy, and they are satisfied with the speed of the vehicle within the service area that we have. And majority, close to 80% or more than 80%, they are feeling safe with the service, and 88% will ride again with Rapid. So we are very happy with the results that we have received, and we are going to address if there is any place for improvement in the phase 2 of the project if we forward.
Great, those are some really interesting results so far. And I know too, you were discussing working with different communities in those focus groups. And I think you'd mentioned earlier people with disabilities, and that's a question we hear a lot. So I think this one probably goes to Megan and Fauna, but are riders who use a wheelchair able to use the autonomous vehicles through the platform right now?
Yes, Rapid is accessible to those who use wheelchairs. One of May Mobility's autonomous vehicles is wheelchair accessible, and riders can specifically request that vehicle through the UT Arlington Rider app. I would say more broadly, our goal is to ensure that transit tech at VIA enables access to transit for as many people as possible. So this means those with limited mobility, but also those who are unfamiliar with technology or might not have a smartphone, and those who might be unbanked. And so autonomous mobility is no different, and it's critical that AV services are accessible, but also that the data informing the future evolution of AVs is derived from a diverse rider group and a range of mobility needs. So to that end, the transit tech for Rapid includes an accessible rider app. It also supports dial-in phone booking, so for those who might not have a smartphone, and a variety of on-hand customer support options. And I'll hand it over to Fauna, who can speak to the vehicle itself, but would just say that we're particularly proud to partner with a company like May Mobility that shares similar accessibility goals and, quite unique in the industry, has been a champion for wheelchair accessible vehicles.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Megan. Definitely want to highlight some of the work that we've done in Arlington as we help shape the future of our desire to have amazing mobility that services all areas. One of the things that we've done in Arlington is we've worked with various groups, including the Texas Transportation Institute and various disability focus groups and demonstrations. We've really been able to gather input and feedback from this community for our next wheelchair accessible platform. We're hoping to roll out the Sienna platform at the end of this year, which will be fully ADA accessible.
Great, thank you. Go ahead.
If I can, I'll just jump in kind of on the same topic about using data and sharing data to help inform decision making. I think that's been another really important benefit of our collaboration and partnership. The amount of data that the city receives from VIA and May Mobility that we're able to share with UTA sharing back data from the ridership surveys, all of that has really helped us understand exactly, how people are using the service, what's working, maybe are there areas for improvement, and to help inform future decisions as well. So that data sharing piece has been critical.
Absolutely, that's a really good point, Anne. And something else we hear a lot from PAVE, we get a lot of questions from the general public, both when we've done demonstration events in the past, people who've attended deployments. And one question we hear a lot is, if the technology is autonomous, why is there still a human attendant on board? So Fauna, I was wondering if you could touch on that, the importance of why May Mobility has fleet attendants on board during the RAPID project.
Sure. So definitely get this question a lot as well. Really, the autonomous vehicle operator serves several different purposes. They're on board to monitor the vehicle and intervene should there be a need to do so. So definitely highlighting on safety there. Additionally, they're really present to help answer rider questions, provide feedback to our internal teams that help improve the service. This is a really important part of the role. We're really excited that they're able to influence our technology to move it forward. Really, they're a friendly face for riders and are truly our ambassadors to the city, project partners, and the technology.
And again, just from the city's perspective, we're really glad to have that human operator in the vehicle. Again, that the technology is new for a lot of people. And I think that provides a level of comfort and an opportunity for education that's really important as we test the technology.
Sherry, do you have anything else to add there from your experience and, talking to the students and stuff about that piece?
Well, actually, we received that question a lot, and as Anne and Pana mentioned, so it's very interesting that they expect no safety attendant, and we are saying that for the purpose of the preparation, that we will have the safety attendant in this phase, but in future, we are probably going to remove the safety attendants. It's a step-by-step integration of the service, AVs into the service. And it's very interesting that they learn about how the technology works. They have lots of questions when they take a ride, and they are more and more learning about the AVID. So it's very interesting to see that.
Absolutely. And Megan, you've touched on this a little bit before in your previous questions, but I'm curious from VIA's perspective, what lessons about integrating AVs into an already existing transportation system, what do you think other regions or cities can learn from this work at the RAPID project?
Sure. So as we've mentioned, I think RAPID is one of few examples in the US to showcase how AVs can successfully be integrated in mass transit. And there are likely a few key components that were central to RAPID's approach that might be relevant for specific groups of people. So thinking about cities or transit operators or public transit agencies, and would love to hear Anne's thoughts here as well. I think one is the use of an integrated mixed fleet. So when deployed as part of a mixed autonomous and non-autonomous fleet, AVs can actually help form an even more robust transit network. They're only available where they serve a distinct purpose, and the technology isn't pushed to areas it might not yet adequately serve, like certain topographies or road conditions. And non-AVs, while maybe a little less exciting, serve to supply rider demand where and when AVs aren't available. So this balance helps operators actually use AVs to solve real transit needs. I'd also point to the use of on-demand dynamically routed technology, because when AVs are deployed in such a way, the vehicle utilization is maximized. So that means we're filling as many seats as possible for as many trips as possible, while still maintaining a high quality service. But it's particularly important with AVs in helping operators maximize cost efficiency for their AV investment. And then I guess thinking about the rider community as a distinct group, I'd note the importance of a tech-enabled rider experience. So many transit riders may have never set foot in an AV before, so it's crucial to make this adjustment as convenient and safe as possible, as we've discussed. And so, for example, RAPID's leveraging the Rider app, which helps with rider booking, but also provides live customer support and visibility into live vehicle tracking. And then once in the vehicle, riders can see an in-vehicle screen, which contains ride information, live trip updates, and unique QR codes scanning to confirm their actual onboarding of the vehicle. So this enables riders to experience AVs often for their first time as safe, accessible, and convenient. And then finally, for AV manufacturers and providers, and would love to hear Fana's thoughts here, I think RAPID has demonstrated the growth potential of AVs in public transit, a philosophy that both VIA and May Mobility share, given the benefits we've seen in bringing AVs to Arlington's public transit, but also the benefits of bringing public transit to AVs.
And Fana, did either of you guys want to chime in? Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. No, I think, from the city's perspective, public transportation, it's got to be convenient, it's got to be efficient, it's got to be affordable. Otherwise, people aren't going to use it. And so, I think the on-demand nature of these types of services are really appreciated by our residents, because they can travel when and where and how they want to. And then I think the AVs just add another layer to that. But at the end of the day, we need it to work, and we need it, there needs to be a vehicle available to pick people up when they want to take a ride. And so it's a lot of fun if it's an AV, and it's fun to be able to work on this project. But I think, the end goal is for riders to almost not even necessarily know the difference, right? If they're in an AV or not, like, they're getting where they need to go. And we're providing that ride in the most effective way possible. That's the most important thing at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I agree with both Megan and Anne. And I think that RAPID has just really been a great, proving ground for all of us working on the project team on kind of what it looks like for us to build this mobility, very seamless ecosystem in Arlington using all forms of mobility.
Absolutely. And Fauna, Megan touched really briefly on kind of the integrating between VIA and May Mobility that's happened to make this service seamless for customers. Can you talk about that back-end integration just a little bit from your perspective on how, riders can book, pay, dispatch, use things on VIA's platform through the AVs?
Yes, great. Megan, definitely jump in, but want to talk a little bit about kind of the work that we started early on. So the backend integration work started about 6 months prior to the service launch. The technical integration with VIA in Arlington was primarily enabled by two key innovations, which we've jointly developed with VIA. The first is VIA's world-class dispatching and routing algorithm, which they've enhanced to accommodate the unique needs of AVs. Examples of this really do like being able to block off certain routes that aren't accessible by EVs or adjusting the ETAs to the top speed that the vehicle travels at, as well as enabling our vehicles to circulate through the service zone during periods of low demand so we can continue to gather valuable driving data. This was really crucial for us to align and start this work early. And really the second key innovation is May's vehicle cloud interface service, which enables May vehicles to communicate with VIA in a very secure manner. So this innovation allows our AVs to communicate with VIA the same way a human driver with a mobile device would today. So very innovative that we've worked on 6 months prior to the service.
Great. And Anne, you mentioned this at the beginning, but the city of Arlington had previously been involved with 2 autonomous vehicle pilots. Can you talk a little bit about how that previous work helped and informed the RAPID pilot, and just broadly what you think the future of AVs looks like for Arlington?
Yeah, that's the $2 million question, right? So, I think our previous experience was critical. We've been fortunate to now do 3 AV pilots, with RAPID being our third. So our first pilot was an off-street deployment. We used a network of pedestrian and bicycle trails that were already existing in the city, and we used a low-speed electric shuttle for that service. So it was a great entry point, and a great opportunity for our residents to be able to come out and kind of experience AV technology in a little bit more of a controlled environment. And then that operated from 2017 through 2018. And then later in 2018, we launched phase 2, which was an on-street deployment using an auto-grade vehicle platform. This operated kind of in a circulator route, picking people up at some key destinations in Arlington's entertainment district. And then we had always envisioned phase 3 being an integration of AVs with our rideshare service. So again, we were fortunate with the FTA grant to be able to explore this opportunity. Some of the key things that we've learned along the way really are just kind of the importance of understanding the deployment environment and how the technology is going to work in different environments. Everything from, we had to install some birdhouses on tall poles for our first deployment because there were no buildings for the vehicles to use to localize, to like the vegetation issue that Fauna brought up earlier. I've spent a lot of time trimming grass and other vegetation alongside our AV paths, so that it can operate smoothly and cleanly. So understanding that deployment environment and what's going to work and what's not going to work. I think it's also really important to think about the use case, and matching your use case to the correct vehicle and technology approach, because there are different vehicles out there, different technologies that are being used. And so understanding, do you need the ability to be on street and go with the flow of traffic, or is something that's off street in more of a campus environment better for your use case? So really matching that use case to the technology is key. And I think overall, we've just learned kind of the state of the possible with AVs. And when we first started working in this space in 2017, the predictions were, everybody's going to have an AV in the next couple of years. And obviously we've learned that it's a little more complicated, and those timeframes have been adjusted. But I think there's a lot of reasons to still be optimistic for the future of AVs. Here in Arlington, we are actively looking at future funding and future opportunities to continue working in this space. There's still a lot to learn and a lot to test with the AV technology. We talked about having that human operator, but how do we get to a point where maybe we don't need to have a human operator in every situation? So we're really excited to continue these partnerships and continue working in this space to help provide, safe, efficient, and convenient transportation for our residents.
Absolutely. And that was obviously a very robust answer, but Sherry, I'm curious if you have any other things to add there on what you think the future of AVs look like in Arlington.
Sure, actually, Anne provided very detailed response, but just to add to that, I believe that the AVs will be integrated into mass transit significantly. It's just a matter of time, that how long does it take to get there. Education is an important piece, I believe. So we have the technology there. We just need to educate the public, and we need to understand what education each category of people need. Younger generation, they might need different type of education to get used to the service compared to the senior people. We need to make sure that every citizen feels comfortable with the service and what type of education we can provide them and how we can improve the service so they feel safe and comfortable with the future. And these needs might be different based on if it's a rural service, if it's an urban area that we are providing the service in any area, or different needs that people they have based on their category of education, income, but it will be handled in future. And I believe that it will be integrated significantly into our mass transit.
Absolutely. Thanks, Sherry. And Megan, I know you touched on this a little bit too, but how do you think AVs will fit into the future of mass transit?
I think RAPID's a great lens to think about this through, as it demonstrates the potential of AVs to transform mass transit, and I think specific, unique benefits that come from doing so. And I think of three. So one is usefulness. So when deployed with smart booking, routing, and dispatching, and when properly scoped, AVs, can actually fill gaps in current transportation. And when they're made available where they're capable and safe, they can serve a useful purpose. Like Anne mentioned, they can actually get people where they need to go. Second is accessibility. So when deployed through mass transit, AVs are democratized to the broader public. And as we mentioned, data drawn from a large, diverse rider base and mobility needs spectrum matures AV technology so that AVs today and their future are not limited to just those who can afford private vehicles or private rides, but everyone. And then finally, sustainability. So regardless of how environmentally friendly a vehicle is, fewer vehicles on the road will always be a more sustainable option. So shared autonomous vehicles can reduce pollution as well as traffic and congestion.
Absolutely. And Fana, what about you?
Yeah, definitely feel that we've covered quite a few points here, but there is absolutely a lot that we've learned in Arlington and will continue with some of the work that we have planned. There's still an untapped knowledge base for us on other connected forms of transportation and mobility ecosystems that we're hoping to explore. I think really understanding kind of what some of these paths to AVO free look like in various cities and service areas will be really interesting for us to learn in the future. I think, as we've all kind of mentioned, it really does make a large community impact when there are multiple efficient, safe, and affordable forms of transportation for all. And we really do see AVs fitting in as that complement service. So absolutely summarize all that we've said before, but absolutely see some of the work that we've started and that we're not done yet with. So
absolutely. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation, and thank you all again, Megan, Sherry, Fana, and really appreciate you reaching out to share the story with PAVE and our audience. If you'd like to follow up with PAVE or any one of these panelists about the RAPID project, please reach out to us on our website contact form at www.pavecampaign/contact or any of our social media accounts at PAVE Campaign. Thank you.